Hi everyone, I'm Will Brown and welcome to the WP Quickies series, bite-sized WordPress tips and tricks in 30 minutes or less. And today is one for WordPress administrators and developers alike. What PHP extensions does WordPress require? And that's a topic that was sent in by WP Quickies viewer Gene Work. So thank you very much for that, Gene. And thanks for everyone for taking your time with me this nice sunny Sydney afternoon. And welcome to those overseas and those watching on replay. So if you are watching, let's just put that in full screen. There we go. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and click that bell to get my latest video updates, and give me a big thumbs up on Facebook if you are on there. So drop a note in the comments, let me know who you are and where you are coming from. We have on top, g'day to you too. We have Norman, we have Kingsley as well, and Mr. Miapus, one of our regular viewers from there, and Anthony as well. Hope you guys are doing well and it's nice and sunny where you are. If you want to leave a comment during this talk, then just leave one in the comments and just start with a hashtag ask, just so it's easy for me to have a look down through the list and see all the questions. So we've got Paul as well. Hi Paul, one of our regular WordPress Quickie viewers. Thank you very much for spending your time, and I hope all is well with you guys. Let's jump straight into it. Hi, Joey from Singapore again, and A2 as well. Great, we've got quite a lot of people on board today. That's just fantastic. Okay, let's jump in. PHP extensions for WordPress. Now, if you're on managed WordPress hosting or shared hosting, you're probably not going to want to know about this. It's probably not something you really need to worry about or know about. However, if you are trying to set up your own local development environment, or if you're setting up a custom environment for yourself or your client, then it's useful to understand how PHP works and which extensions it really needs to work. Okay, so here is, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Here is a diagram of a very high level simplified diagram of how WordPress and PHP works together. So we have here WordPress at the top. So WordPress is an event-driven app and it's built in the programming language PHP. Now PHP itself, it's a dynamic language that compiles code in real time to generate HTML as an output. So from the WordPress stack, most of the dynamic data comes from functions and database queries. The output there is sent along to the web server along with static assets such as images, files, CSS, and JavaScript files. And the web server creates the final full web page in HTML and sends that back to the requesting browser. Now, that's a very, very simplified overview of how WordPress, PHP, and the web server works. But we can look a little bit closer down at the PHP side, and we can see that the PHP also, we've got a core app, but it also grabs in extensions. Now, in a similar way to extending the WordPress core functionality by installing plugins, the core PHP programming language can gain additional functionality by using extensions. Now, PHP extensions, they are compiled libraries and they're installed within the PHP installation folder on the server. The exact folder name and location, it can change. It is specified in the configuration file for PHP, and that's a php.ini file. But as the path and the folder name can change between different installations, the only real way to find out where these extensions live is to type in that particular little command in the green. So you're typing in php -i, and then you're piping it through grep, which is searching for extension_dir, and that's going to output that line in the configuration file, the php.ini file, and it's going to tell you exactly where these extensions live. And the reason you won't want to do that is because sometimes when you install PHP, it doesn't come with the complete set of extensions. So you're going to have to probably go into the php.ini file, find out the extension line that you need and uncomment it or add a new one in, save that and restart your PHP or your PHP fast PHP service. So that's basically where they live. That's how to find out where the extensions live, and go into php.ini file, and you can enable and disable all the extensions by uncommenting or commenting them out or adding some new ones in. Now, how many PHP extensions exist? Well, quite a lot. According to the reference manual for PHP, and I'll just copy that in there for you. And it's ordered on that page alphabetically and by class and by string and stuff. So you can have a quick look there. There are 176 different extensions, officially documented PHP extensions, and that's them all up on the screen just now. And yes, I had to make that in very, very, very small fonts to fit all those on in the screen. Okay, now let's have a quick look. I'm going to switch the views to the PHP extensions that WordPress needs to use. So here we are. So can you see the difference there? So that's them all. And then we flick on, and that's the ones that PHP needs to run WordPress. Okay, now that is according to the Make WordPress documentation, and I've posted a link in that. And all the links for this, there's not going to be very many links, but all the links will be underneath the video description at the end of this talk. Now, I've color-coded some of these. So the ones in purple, there are 13 of them, and they are 13 official PHP extensions for the core functionality of WordPress, and those ones are in pink. Then we have 9 official PHP extensions. They're in orange, and they're for fallback functions. And then 3 official PHP extensions if the files are non-writable on the server. The ones in yellow, those ones are used. And then we've got 1 non-official PHP extension, that's MB string, and that is in blue. So there's quite a bit of difference there. As you can see, the previous ones, there's quite a lot, 176, and then WordPress itself only uses this amount here. So that's 13, that's 21, 24, 25 different extensions for PHP that you need to run WordPress properly. Now, the difference between these, so the ones in pink, they're the ones that WordPress core needs to work. So if you're missing any of those, then when you install WordPress and try and do the installation, it's going to throw up a bit of an error and it's not going to work properly. The ones in orange, they are used for fallback functions. So what that means is that if the WordPress core functionality, these core libraries, they can't be used for whatever reason, and maybe your PHP version, you're still on a lower version of PHP, then the functions will fall back and search for functions in these particular extensions, in the ones in orange as well. So you might want to install those as a backup as well in those. Then the ones in yellow, so if for any reason WordPress can't write to the files or folders on the server, then it's going to use these 3 PHP extensions to try and write those files. So using FTP sockets and secure shell for those. Now, the one kind of standout here is MB string. Now, MB string, the reason I put it in blue is that it isn't an official PHP extension. So it's not an officially documented PHP extension, but WordPress does use it. And this one can pop up quite a few errors. So I'm just going to pop onto this slide here, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for here. So I'll talk about that just in a second, but I'm just going to run through these extensions that we need and what they do, just so you have a better understanding as to why they're there and what they're used for. So the first one is curl, and it performs remote request operations. So this is used very extensively by API systems. So if you're grabbing information from a third-party API service, then you use a curl command, and you'll send your authentication, your API key, your username, secret pass keys or something to that, and then you'll grab the information back, process it, and do something with it. So curl's used a lot for API requests. Then we've got DOM. DOM is used to validate the text widget content. When you're typing stuff in, it uses the DOM to parse all the different lines that you're typing in. EXIF. EXIF is used by cameras, so they store all the metadata for images. So when you're taking an image on your camera, it's going to store your ISO, your location, the speed of the photo, maybe the date and time as well. So the EXIF library is used by the media library to try and extract information out of that. Then we've got file info, and that's used to detect the different types of files. So your JPEGs, your PNGs, your GIF files, your MP4s, all the stuff that's allowed in the file, in the media library. And the function, the library file info is used to detect what type of file that is. Hash. Hash is used for hashing. What a hash is it basically, it takes a bit of text and it creates a long string based on the text you put in. So for example, the password, when you're typing in WordPress passwords, it doesn't store the password in the database itself, it stores a hash. So you type in your password, WordPress takes the password, it runs it through this hash library, and it generates this long string, and that's the string that's stored in the database. So then when you come to log in again, you type in the password, it then rehashes the password that you've typed in the login box, and it checks the hash against the one that's stored in the database. And if they match, then that means that the password you've typed in is correct. So that is obviously a required extension there, and it's also used for updating plugins and themes and packages as well. The next one, Image Magic, it provides better image quality for media upload. So when it's uploading stuff, WordPress resizes the images to different thumbs, and Image Magic is used for that, for the quality of JPEGs. The next one is JSON. Now, JSON is a file format, and it's pretty much the most commonly used file format for pushing information between different systems in an understandable way for humans and for machines. And that's used a lot by WordPress, especially in the Gutenberg stuff. Okay, and then we get to MB string. Now, the reason it's got a little warning next to that is that, as I was saying, MB string, although it's required for the core functionality of WordPress, it isn't really officially a PHP extension. It's not officially documented. It's not officially shall I use the word supported, as that it's not a core PHP extension. And what that means is if you are installing PHP on a brand new server, so a brand new installation of PHP, chances are, more often than not, MB string is not going to be installed along with that installation. You're going to have to install it separately as an addition afterwards, or change the way that you're installing PHP to include that when you're installing the package. And so you're going to get a bit of a surprise if you try and install PHP, vanilla PHP, and then try and run WordPress. It's probably going to bomb out with a PHP error because it can't find this MB string extension. So that's definitely one to watch out for. Next one is MySQLi, and that's for the database connections. We've got OpenSSL, so that's SSL, Secure Socket Layer. That's your HTTPS stuff. So that's all your secure connections with other remote hosts. Then we've got PCRE, and that just increases performance of pattern matching. So that's something to do with coding. And then Sodium, that's it validates signatures and also provides some secure information that allows you to do complex hashing for that. And the last two, XML. Well, XML is another format. It's another file format for passing data, a data format. So that's used for exchanging information between different remote services as well. And then we've got zip. Now, everyone knows what zip files are. That's how the plugins and themes are distributed and updated in WordPress. They download the zip and they unzip it on the file. So it needs to have access to zip. So those are the core PHP extensions that you need, and if you don't have them on, then chances are your WordPress installation is going to bomb out with a PHP fatal error, so a white screen, and then you're going to have to look through the error log. So make sure you got all those, and make sure you got your MB string as well included as a library if it's a fresh PHP installation. Okay, here are the other ones. So these are the fallback extensions. So if the core set doesn't work for some reason, or it can't find those functions, then WordPress will try and use the older functionality from these libraries here. So it's probably a good idea to have these installed just in case there's a problem with your PHP. You don't have to have them installed, but it's a good probably best just to try and install them anyway. So we have BC Math, so that's for mathematics. We've got Filter for filtering user input like forms and things. GD is a graphics library, and it's used if the newer one, Image Magic, isn't installed, like a fallback for that. ICONV is used to convert between different character sets, so different languages. WordPress international language downloads. It overtook English many years ago, so there's more people using international WordPress languages than there are English, so that's definitely something that's needed. Encrypt, that's used for generating random bytes, so it's used a lot for encryptions when you're dealing with passwords and trying to authenticate. Simple XML and XML Reader, well, they're used for parsing all the XML data formats, and zlib is a gzip compression and decompression tool. So zip is proprietary, whereas gzip is more open source for that. So you can use that as a fallback library. So those are the fallback extensions. And then we've got these three here. And these again are used. So if for whatever reason WordPress can't natively write, open, or read a file, then it's going to use these libraries, these PHP extensions to try and get that file up on the server. So SSH2 is secure shell, so that's your command line, copy, scopy, that sort of stuff. FTP, everyone knows what that is, file transfer protocol, to try and upload some files in plain text. And then as a complete fallback, you've got sockets, and sockets is a very rudimentary way to connect two remote hosts together and transfer some data. So that's it. Now you know which extensions WordPress needs to use, or PHP needs to use. So the core ones, the fallback ones, and the ones in case there's any file issues for those. Now, if you do have any questions, you can pop them down in the comments there at the side, and I'll try to do my best to answer them. But it's a very, very quick one today. I just wanted to put one out there for administrators and developers there, because I had a few clients come back over the last couple of weeks. They've been trying to set up a custom environment, and yes, they installed PHP 8 to see if their site would work, and it crashed. So they thought straight away it was incompatible with PHP 8, and then we found out that they hadn't installed MB string for that. So I solved that in a couple of minutes, just looking at the server configuration. So it does pay to know, to have a kind of good overview as to how PHP works, and just to do a little bit of problem solving. Okay, so I can't see any questions coming through, and that is fine. So thank you for just bearing with me. Listen to this one, even if it's not part of your repertoire. If you're not a developer or administrator, it's still useful, I think, to understand roughly how WordPress works and PHP and extensions as well. So I'm always looking for lunchtime at WP Quickies topics. You'll find a link underneath the video in the description, or you can QR code this on the screen on replay, and just send me some topics. I'm always looking to extend them. I've got some space to queue up some more for the second half of this year. So it'd be good to see anything you'd like me to talk about WordPress related that I can probably cover in 30 minutes or less. That would be fantastic. And a little bit of a shout out as well for WPAustralia.org. So if you're looking to figure out where all the meetups are in Australia, or want to join us on Slack, then go to WPAustralia.org, and there's a couple of buttons up there that'll tell you all the meetups, and it'll tell you the process to join our WP Australia Slack channel, which kind of looks a little bit like this, a little bit outdated there, but we're on WPAustralia.slack.com, and that's where we all kind of hang out and chat and kind of general stuff, or more specific on plugins or security or things like that. I do have a quick comment here. Kingsley for Smith says, another example of when you have used it. So PHP upgrade you covered. Oh, okay, right. Yeah, so it's mostly for PHP upgrades, I would think, to kind of know with the extensions, or if you are going to be running some specialty function. So if you're going to be integrating with other systems, then sometimes you do need to use some of these extra extensions from here. I mean, there's a whole heap of them there. I'll just pick out one. Sorry, just get rid of your comment there. There is one. Let's see. Where are we? Oh, it's gone. It must have been an old one. I saw it earlier on. So there was one called Lotus Notes, and I used to use Lotus Notes years and years ago. The Domino server. So there was an old extension there to natively connect PHP with the IBM Lotus Notes Domino server. That seems to be gone at the moment. Would that be an example? Another one would be, and I've used this one before, is the Postgres SQL. So you can see 1, 2, 3 on the fourth column, kind of down towards the end, at the beginning of P, you've got Postgres. So Postgres is another type of database querying system. So to integrate stuff with that, if you want to be writing to different database engines, different systems like that, then you're going to have to load in these different extensions. So you're basically creating a custom client environment for those. So definitely, if you're looking to integrate WordPress into a bigger environment with more tools, and that's kind of my specialty. That's what I do. I go into small and medium enterprise businesses, and they want to connect WordPress in with their native business systems. So I would have a look to see if there's a native PHP extension that would give me that functionality, and then look in the PHP documentation and see how I can implement that to write directly to that system from WordPress, rather than use like a third-party system like Zapier or whatever, which is great to do that. But for enterprises using different third-party systems. There's a security issue there, and there's a data issue as well as to where data is being stored and how it's being used. So a lot of the big businesses like to do stuff in-house and make sure that everything is done, with their systems. It's all nice and secure and rounded. So that would probably be the best example, Kingsley, of being able to use this knowledge for that. So I think that's a really, really good question. Thanks for that. On top says, when you do a WordPress install, the default extensions are automatically installed apart from that one. Is that correct? More often than not, you will find that these core extensions that are installed by default. Sometimes SSH, this one, SSH2, is not installed, but again, that's not particularly a core one. But yeah, so most of them will be installed in a core PHP installation. Definitely not MBM string. So that one you'll need to install. Whereabouts is it? That one, MB string. That one you need to install separately because it doesn't come with most of the package managers for some of the big, the most common Linux machines like Ubuntu, for example. If you're to install PHP 8.1, the native package on Ubuntu doesn't include MB string as part of that. So you need to install that separately as a separate extension. So there's a separate command line for installing that into the PHP package using the Ubuntu or Bash or whatever type command you are doing. Yep, so cool. Thank you very much for that. Let's see, where was I? Slide 16, I think it was. Yep. A little bit of shout out for my website owner survival guide. You can have a look at that in your own time. And happy to connect with you as well. Mostly on LinkedIn, Developer Will. On Instagram, WillBrown_AU, and on Twitter as well under Developer Will. So drop me a note if you haven't connected with me already. Happy to do that and chat with you. Next week, I'm going to be looking at the differences, the pros and the cons of native WordPress comments versus the discuss comments. So thank you very much for taking your time. Take care, and I will see you next week.